January regular meeting of the Bella Vista Village Property Owners Association Board of Directors meeting to order. If everyone would rise, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone would please remain standing. We have
Good evening. Thank you for the privilege of being here and opening this meeting in prayer. Would you bow with me? Father God, we thank you for the mercies and the blessings that you have already poured out upon this day and blessed us with. Father, we thank you for leading and guiding us when we will seek your face and study your word. Father, tonight we ask for leading and guiding for this group who serve our city. And Lord, we ask for wisdom and that they may seek your word. Your word tells us it is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path if we will follow it. Father, we pray that this will be so. Be with each member and be with each person who is here tonight. May the discussions and the things that are on their hearts be discussed with kindness and love. We ask for your leading and guiding in all these things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Pastor Metcalf. The next item on the agenda are additions or deletions to the agenda. Anyone have anything? I do. I would like to add a new business item, the addition of some money to the GM Contingency Fund in support of the 50th anniversary celebration. Any objection to that? We will discuss that as a new business item. The board had an executive session on January 8th to review comments to the proposed general manager's employment agreement by the board's outside legal counsel and to prepare changes to the employment agreement. Okay. The next item on the agenda, I'd like to move that to after the open forum so that everyone on the board has an opportunity to address item 6, board member resignation. Director Lebzinski will be a little late, and I'd like her to participate in that particular agenda item. So we'll move that after open forum. Next item is approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the December 11th regular board meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second? Any discussion? Take a vote.
Approve the board member minutes from December 11th, 2014. All in favor? Any opposed?
Next item is recognition of outgoing Joint Advisory Committee members. We have 3 Joint Advisory Committees, Golf, Recreation, and Lakes. The individuals who volunteer for those committees serve a 3-year term. We have this year a couple individuals that have elected to continue for a second 3-year term on joint advisory committees. So Harris McKee is one of the individuals on the golf committee that'll serve another year. The individuals currently assigned to the golf committee whose terms expire are Stevie Lamar and Merwin Fry. We'd like to recognize their service and appreciate their efforts and assistance on the Golf Joint Advisory Committee. And we have a little letter of recommendation that will be going out to them. Ron Jones on the Recreation Committee will serve another 3-year term, and we're losing Beverly Kennedy on the Recreation Committee. And Ron and Beverly will also receive a certificate. On the Lakes Committee, Lynn Mansky and Dick Francis have a term that's expiring, and Jerry Artsinger is going to continue on the Lakes Joint Advisory Committee for an additional term. So we thank all of them for their service and appreciate the time and attention that they've given. Next item, Tommy, General Manager's report.
Good evening. We generally, about every 3 or 4 months, brings an update about the foreclosures, and so just wanted to wrap up our 2014 year. For number of judgments that we obtained for lots, as you can see, we reached a peak of 691 in 2013, dropped down to about 320, and that was, of course, a result of changes that we did in that organization. Number of online lots sold, only 120 in 2014 from a peak of 268 that we had in 2012. So we're continuing to see a little bit less there, and I'm going to refer to another chart in just a moment. The lots that we sold at our the judicial auctions, these were ones that are on the courthouse, handled by the Benton County Clerk, 171 versus 346 that was sold in 2013. Delinquency collections, as you can see, we have been slowly increasing the delinquent collections. Part of this is because that we are having more delinquencies that are falling into the collection process, but we have also have dedicated some additional resources, and they have really been working hard at trying to contact people and move them into trying to get collections from those. Yes.
Are those 90-day or more?
120.
120.
Yes.
Okay. Is it appropriate to make a comparison between our delinquency total and our sister community in Hot Springs?
I don't have the numbers right off, but I know that their delinquencies is considerably worse than ours, that they suffered much worse the recession when the speculators left.
The number that I saw on the Hot Springs Village BOA website, kind of mid-December, was a little more than $10 million. It's fairly significant.
Yes, we are running right about 1.1 or so. Here's just a chart of 2014, looking at the delinquencies greater than 120 days for our unimproved property. We are seeing a little bit of growth there. The improved property continues to go down slightly, and again, we do have a little bit more enforcement with it than we do with improved properties. This is the combined chart. As you can see, as a total, we certainly are seeing an increase right here in 2014. Looking at a little bit of historical data, we have been in this neighborhood pretty well for the last decade. We did drop down a little bit lower than 800 for a little while, topped out, as you can see, almost at 1.1 million, and we're still going over a little $1 million that we have in 120 days plus. Just looking at the 3 past years by month, as you can see, 2012, 2014, and then 2013. So we ended just a little bit higher than 2013, but less than 2012. Through another that's really not anything to do with delinquencies, but it's kind of along the same manner. Lot ownership transfers. This is the number of lots that have transferred in these years. 2014, we had just slightly more than 3,000, and of that number, 970 approximately is brand new owners. So the rest of those were transferred to people who already owned lots. Total E project, the Total E staff will be on site starting the 25th. We plan to cut over live on February the 1st. There's been some intensive training going on with staff the last couple of weeks, and will continue. The project continues to be on schedule. Moving on to examples of things that happened back in the month of December, a little bit into November. We put in 60 foot of 8-inch pipe. That's something that we generally did not deal with the larger pipe for many years, but we have got equipment now that's enabling us to work with a little bit larger pipe. Also, we replaced quite a bit of AC pipe. You've heard me talk about it as part of the study. We're trying to determine how reliable that is for the future. In some cases here, because we were tapping into this new line, we replaced 120 foot in one area, 140 foot, and then 60 foot in another, as we were tapping into that Grosvenor for Maine. Of course, we generally will have anywhere between 25 and 33, 35 leaks a month. It's according to what size, it's how much water we lose. We replaced 2 fire hydrants. Street patching, we're still doing catch up in street patching. As we've been doing for at least about 3 years now, dead tree cleanup around common property on areas that are either in cul-de-sacs where they're very much in front of the homes, or if they are in a situation where they may endanger a piece of property of a member, then we take those down. Of course, even though it seems that it's been cold, but when it was cold, it wasn't wet. When it was wet, it wasn't that cold. So far, we have not had to go out with the sand and salt, but we have prepared our machinery, and we have also, at times, we've even put the hoppers in the truck beds, but thankfully have never been called on to use them. It appears that golf has flattened out some. We were at 186,000 paid rounds in 2013, almost 183 in 2014. We know that we did have some disagreeable weather. December was really bad. I want to show you a little bit about that in a moment. Pretty pleased that we didn't seem to see another real drop in our golf rounds. Looking at the weather, and we did discuss a little bit at the golf committee meeting early this week, that we're going to try to work with the U of A to get a weather station in Bella Vista. But if you look at what we have so far, in the month of December, we had 5 clear days, 8 partly cloudy days, and 18 cloudy days. Here's the number of days that we had at least a little bit of rainfall. So as you can see, for about 2/3 of the month, it was wet to some degree. Of course, people will ask, well, what do you do with your staff that are generally out mowing and weed eating and all the other things that they do on golf courses during the wintertime? We bring in a lot of the fixtures out there, refurbish them, work on the machinery and such as that. This is one of the areas that we've continued to have problems with, number 13 Scottsdale. This whole bank right in here continues to erode away. We put this fence in, I would say, for the first time about 8 years ago. This is the second time that we've had to move it since we put it in, and it's really a concern of ours. There's a culvert that goes under this fairway here, and we are concerned. It's about, I'd say, 15 to 20 feet down, and we are concerned about its integrity. And so if there's water that is leaking out of the side, it could be eroding. So we are very concerned about this. At this point in time, there's not a lot we can do without just digging up the fairway and replacing it.
That's above the gap from the tees. So it's on
Yes.
the upper portion.
Yes. We replaced contaminated sand in the number 5 at Kingswood. We have reported this is the first year that we have bought sand, and there was 2 years we did not buy any replacement sand for our bunkers just because of budget constriction, but we are now, we're able to buy some this year, and we're starting to use it. Cart path repairs, some of this has to do with just damage that was done by the floods, as well as just deterioration over the years. And of course, we are continuing to battle the leaves, as I'm sure all of you are at your homes. Dead tree removal, because we haven't been able to do a lot of the work on the golf courses, we have been working on things, removing dead trees out there and doing cleanup. Painted the dormant Bermuda grasses at Scottsdale and Brittany. Edge and cart paths. Areas. This is an ongoing thing that we have because of the way our soil is, that there's damp areas where water will sit, and we put in sumps. We do this, as I said, it's an ongoing thing. We've done many of these projects since I've been here. Removing Bermuda grass contamination in the greens at Highland. And as you can see, here's a contaminated area where you can see the dead Bermuda, or the dormant Bermuda, and got the plugs. We've got the ADA parking at the dog park completed. So at this point in time, as far as I'm aware, the whole of this park is now ADA compliant. We did put in some rifle range bullet backstops. We constructed these and then put those in, completed put them in place this last time. A member out using it somehow let his rifle discharge back. The road is this way, and so we've put these in there. Our goal has always been to try to contain all the lead within our land. Just continuing to repair things as we have around the village. We have all types of shelters and buildings of wood that are continually needing repair or rebuilding. Doing work, Reardon Hall, creating some chair rail here. Lobby painting. I took the picture off because of the offensive words, but there was some graffiti here, so we had to repaint the lobby around that. Attic stair replacement, one of the clubs, again fighting the leaves in our parks, starting to replace some of the landscaping that had died. Continuing to clear the trap area. We're using those trees, we're harvesting them to be used at Tanyard Creek, which we'll talk about in just a moment. The Tanyard Creek Restoration Project is in full swing. Probably most of the materials that we were having an outsider professional come in and set will probably be done by maybe Monday, if not Tuesday. They're going to work all weekend and are really making good progress. We funded most of this with matching grants from wildlife, either from Game and Fish or from the U.S. Federal Wildlife. Of course, we went in and had to put in erosion control, create an access road to get the heavy equipment. We're using large excavators with thumbs on them so that they can place the material at the right locations. We fenced off the whole of the parking lot to try to keep people from walking on the trail. Brought in trees, a total of 175 trees. They're even using the root balls as a part of the natural stream restoration. Also bringing in about 350 tons of large rocks. If you've been around the Veterans Wall, Lake Bella Vista, the VFW had asked us to demo this building, and after we had some tests run, so there was some asbestos in there. After they had that remediated, we went through and brought some dumpsters out there and then tore the building down. They are loading the dumpsters. And all that is left now is the foundation, which we know is at least 3 foot down, reinforced. And so at this point in time, we're telling the veterans that it's going to have to stay, unless they want to bring in some bigger equipment to bust it up. Unfortunate accident, we had one of our ladies drive down into Lake Ann and drown. Her car went down off of her driveway. This is the the second death that we've had in our lakes in the last 12 months, which has been, we went for a number of years without any incident. Of course, our employees are inspecting the properties around the lakes at all time as docks are worked on or whatever, to make sure that the people remove the debris and don't let it get out into the water and float around, causing either hazards or something needing to be cleaned up. Of course, we're also doing the winter projects, such as dock repairs, railing, painting. We bring this up probably 3 or 4 times a year as examples that if people that are using the moorings do not correctly moor their boats, that they will then, in high winds or high water, damage the boats around them. So we do try to identify those and contact the owners to try to get them fixed whenever we can. We had 750 11-inch rainbow stocked in Lake Brittany. Dazzling Village Lights was, I believe, another success. The Razzle Dazzle Dance, this was the first one that we've had, and understand there was a lot of people there, and there was a great time had by all. And that concludes my report.
Any questions from the board for Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy, just a quick one. At the very beginning of the presentation, we talked a lot about delinquencies and collections and that sort of thing, where 2013 looked pretty good, 2014 looked worse. And it's my recollection that in the 2014 finances or budget, we took a body out of the collections department, and then in 2015, we've added that person back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So obviously, we don't know what the economy is going to do and all the other factors that may affect delinquencies, but hopefully, we'll see that 2013 trend come back into fashion.
Yes,
Okay.
and certainly the economy could help us a lot with that, not only with the head count increase to work it, but hopefully the economy will pick up so we'll have more movement and people buying the lots.
Thank you.
Tommy, I had one question about the water line repair that you're doing on Grosvenor. Is that are you tying into the same line that feeds up most of the Medfield area around Grandshire and where the old water tower used to be?
That this is a part we tied into that new line that we put in. That it's the pump station out by the veteran wall that goes all the way to 340. So it was that line there.
The reason I ask is when you created that new line, we had a significant improvement in our water pressure at Medfield. Just recently, it's now dropped back down to about where it was before you put the new water line in. I'm just wondering if that's a coincidence or had something to do with this tie-in down at Grosvenor.
That's the first report I've heard of that. I will check in and get back with you, Dave.
Anything else?
I noticed that we had 52 new property owners added in December, which continues to be a positive number. I'm wondering, where do we stand for the year? You know,
As far as how many new ones?
new.
Roughly 970.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any information how that equates against people moving out? So, some of that is lost. I mean, it's not, so we have new, but some of those people moved away from the village.
You have some of that. You also, well, there was about 50 lots that was developed into homes. We hope that some of those lots are being purchased to be developed as part of that. I did notice just as I was looking at the water meters in different parts of the village, that there was actually, in some cases, less water meters active in some of our zones than what we had 2 years ago. So that would say that we've got some empty homes that are developing in some of those areas. And one of the things that we're going to try to identify our areas a little bit better, whether it be in delinquencies or as far as where we can see that there may have been water meters in the past and there no longer are, to see if they're vacant homes and such. But I'm hoping we will, once we get past the Total E implementation, that we can do some analysis, but it's going to take us some report writing to be able to dig that data out of the Cogsdale system, which all of that data is going to stay within Cogsdale. It's not moving to Total E. So the features that we're gaining in Total E and all the abilities that we'll have to analyze will still not be a part of our water system's numbers.
A couple other things that I noticed when I went through the general manager's report, the statistics is, again, there were approximately $100,000 collected in past due assessments. We have budgeted 152 employees. There are 13 open positions at this point. And I also thought it was interesting to point out the number of members and guests that utilize the gun range and the trap and skeet. For the month of December, there were 157 members and guests at trap and skeet, and 388 members and guests at the rifle and pistol range, which is a fairly significant number of folks with the limited number of days that it's open. So that's a fairly attractive amenity, which is nice. The other thing I noticed is that the maintenance people were out inspecting fire hydrants, 468 fire hydrants inspected in December, which is really good. And then the only other thing I noticed, just to kind of put things in perspective, you can take, and no one can see this, but this is a chart of new home permits. And just to put things in perspective, in 2003 we had 607 new home permits in Bella Vista. 2004 we had 840. 2005 we had 966. The recession started in fall or early 2009. We had 69 new home permits in 2009, 47 in 2010, 20 in 2011, 27 in 2012, 38 in 2013, and in 2014 we budgeted for 30, and we had 50 new home permits in 2014. So hopefully that will cause this trend chart to start moving in the correct direction, which is good. Okay. Anything else? General Manager's report? Okay. Next item is response to open forum comments. There were a couple of comments that were made at the last board meeting, and one of them had to do with the activity associated with the Mentfield clubhouse. You were copied on an email I sent back to a member. Through the month of November for 2014, 1,964 card players, 2,850 exercise class participants, private parties and classes, 1,750 other activities, 2,600 for a total of 9,190 members participating in the Mentfield Clubhouse, which is fairly significant. The other comment that I needed to follow up on had to do with some exercise equipment that the Curves program had offered to the POA. We looked at that equipment. It was older, non-cardio related, and it was not appropriate for use by the POA, so that wasn't something that we were interested in. The next item on the agenda is open forum. I'd ask you, for those members who wish to address the board, to state your name and address. We don't use the clock anymore, but I would encourage those who choose to speak to recognize there may be someone else who has something to say. So anyone who wishes to address us, would you please do so now? Thank you.
My name is Kurt Stoops. I'm here representing the Friends of the Highlands. I live on the Highlands, 22 Monarchy Drive. I'm also here representing a lot of property owners, I hope. But we're concerned about what possibilities lie ahead for the Highlands facility. We really, really want a restaurant in that facility, and we're hoping, above all, that you will at least consider having a meeting with explain what it is you think you'd like to do with it, and to explain why we can't perhaps give someone a chance to make that a good restaurant. How many of you have met Mr. McKee sitting around this table? That's what I thought. It would seem to me that a person who has a desire to open a restaurant in one of our facilities could be given 5 minutes or 10 minutes before this board to explain what he would like to do and what his potential outcome might be from doing that. I'm very surprised. Well, so I hope that I see this club concessions, I think, is where this is going to be covered.
It will.
I don't know what I don't know. I don't have the facts, but I hope I'll hear something positive, and I would hope that you would not vote on tearing up that building for something else before we give a restaurant a good shot. Thank you.
You had sent us an email, and so I have your email contact, and what I'd like to do after we have our discussion is to contact you, and you would be the individual that could arrange for a meeting if we would want to meet.
Be happy to do
Okay,
that.
so you're the best contact to get that started?
I don't know if I'm the best, but right now I'm
But
the
you'll
only
do-
one you got. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for
All right.
coming. And we will be discussing that a little later on the agenda. Okay? Anyone else? Chuck?
Yeah, hi, Chuck Leffler, 27 Cargill Drive. My concern also is the restaurant out there in the Highlands. We've got a decent property there. A lot of people are concerned about what's going to happen with it. My understanding, there's some equipment issue that came up.
There is?
What are we doing with the equipment over at the yacht club? We've got a storage yard over there, full of equipment. I've been through there. I think we should take an inventory to see what this new fellow could use and make it work for him.
A lot of the equipment, as you're probably aware, was installed when those buildings were built, and none of it...
Still new.
Well, I understand.
It's never been used.
I mean, some of that is a good 25 years old.
And stainless steel.
I understand that, and we'll take a look at that and see
Yeah,
if
I'd like
there's
to be
anything
involved
that
if I
could be
could
recycled.
on that inventory and take a look what's
Right.
workable.
Okay,
But I'd like to get somebody out there at that restaurant.
okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Steve McKee, the fella who's interested in starting the restaurant up again. I live at 3 Tyree Place, moved here not too long ago, new homeowner. Very interested still. We were in the process of working on the lease and negotiating, and a couple of days before we were ready to sign the deal, got some bad news about possible changes to the lease. So I resubmitted the lease, and I'm not sure, as one person put it, this is a community full of rumors, and so wanted to set a few things straight. Number one, I am still interested, and number two, look forward to the meeting upcoming. If Kurt has volunteered to coordinate everything, I'm pleased with that. I think that's about it for now, but I do want to emphasize not to make any decisions till we meet again. Is that possible?
We will discuss that in the context of what we're going to be addressing here on the agenda. But we certainly understand exactly where your position is, and that will obviously be taken into consideration by the board.
Is it possible to talk briefly about some of the other lease holders and the terms that they may have had? For example, the sticking point was, I think the cost was calculated about $80,000 to get the lease or get the place back up to steam to meet the fire and the safety codes, about 80,000. And so the idea was, well, I should have some skin in the game, and that I should be the one to put up part of the money. I'm wondering if that's happened with Cafe Amici or Papa Mike's.
I'd like to address your concerns in a non-public forum. I don't want to end up having your negotiation take place between you and me right now.
No, I'm not
Right.
trying to negotiate. I was just trying to get some further information.
Right. That information we could provide to you. I don't have that with me right now, but if you'd like to set up a time where we can go through some of that, I'm happy to do that with you.
Okay. I think that's about it, unless anyone has any questions for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next item, Joan, you were handling some other things, and what I did was I rearranged the agenda. We moved the board member resignation down following the open forum. For those of you that aren't aware, board member Mike Erickson resigned from the board on January 1st. He's relocating out of Bella Vista, and his letter of resignation states, "It has been my pleasure to work with this board and with members of the POA staff over the past 2.5 years. I wish all the best in 2015 and hope you will continue to make progress toward a bright future for Bella Vista." I've been acquainted with Mike since 2008. Mike is a very thoughtful, organized, and diligent, and he would appreciate the delinquent, diligent person. While we always didn't agree, our discussions were very collegial and always spirited. I valued his opinion and appreciated his thoughtful consideration of issues. I'll also miss his editorial assistance. Mike and Charlene, his wife, will be missed by a number of us in the community. We obviously wish Mike and Charlene best wishes and good health as they transition to Houston. So in light of Mike's resignation, I would entertain a motion to accept his resignation. Second? Okay, call for a vote.
There's a motion to accept Mike Erickson's resignation from the Board of Directors. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Brooks opposes.
Mr. Brooks opposes. In light of the vacancy and the fact that we have annual elections with new terms beginning in June 1st, I would also entertain a motion that we not go out for an appointed board member and just fill it through the regular election process. So move.
Second.
Motion is to not fill the open position by appointment, but rather with the upcoming board election in May. All in favor? Any opposed?
In light of that, the Bella Vista Property Owners Association continues to search for property owners to serve on its board of directors. Property owners interested in running for one of 3 seats on the board may obtain a petition packet from POA Corporate Secretary Kathy Ferguson at the Bella Vista Country Club here in this building. We've extended the initial deadline to Friday, January 30th. We attempt to present at least 6 candidates, so members have more of a choice when selecting board leaders. The 3 seats that would be open this election cycle are Mr. Erickson's Joan Glebzinski and myself. 3-year terms begin June 1st, and certified candidates will be announced at the February 19th board meeting. If you have any questions, you can call 855-5012. So we're moving on to old business, Bella Vista signage. Ruth?
To bring everybody up to date, I want to, my back isn't to Kathy because she's worked very hard on this. Bring everybody up to date on signage. Back in May or early June, Becky Morgan and Chris Sunderson from the city of Bella Vista were assigned to this committee, and Kathy Ferguson as well as myself were assigned, and we've worked several meetings between and come up with what we think is a very good, showy, impressive sign that we can all be proud of for Bella Vista. In doing so, the bids were put out and we received one bid back. 5 were sent out and 1 bid back. It happened to be the company that we'd been working with all along, so we felt very comfortable with that bid. In order to work with the bid tonight, we need to waive a 3-bid rule because we have for Bella Vista. We do that first?
Yes.
Okay, can I make a recommendation that since we have 1 bid returned out of the 5 and we feel very comfortable with that bid, that we go ahead and waive the 3-bid rule?
Someone, okay, you make a motion.
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Okay, call for a vote.
The motion is to waive the 3-bid requirement for the Bella Vista entrance signs. All in favor? Any opposed?
In doing this, we also have an agreement between the city of Bella Vista and the POA. And Doug's been working on that with with the city's lawyer and have pretty well worked that out between the two.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's ready to go.
We have one minor issue that we're still clearing up, but I see that being resolved at the beginning of next week.
Okay. In your board package, you received the bid from the sign studio, and the bid came in as a total for both signs. Both signs will be identical on the north and south side for $77,805.35. Our half would be $38,902. In your package, or in your earlier package, you had received a picture of the sign itself. I don't think it's been published. It has been published in the paper.
It has been.
It has been in the paper. And received very good comments from that. And we feel very strong that this is a sign that we can all be proud of. It'll be long-lasting. I know 38,000 sounds like an awful lot of money, which is, however, it's going to be a 50, 60, 70-year sign. It's not something that's going to come down next week. So I would like very much to ask you at this time to support the committee and vote on the money to take care of the sign that our share of the sign will be.
Money for this particular expenditure would have to come out of reserves.
Out of reserves.
We have not budgeted that
That's
for
correct.
2015.
That's correct. Any discussion?
We need a motion first.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure of the $38,000 for the POA portion of the monument signs.
Charlie, I'd like to second that along with recognition for Ruth and Kathy for the work they've done on this project.
Yeah, I think it's, for those of you who haven't seen this sign, I think it's something that is, I don't want to use the term simple, but it's simple but elegant.
Tasteful and
Very tasteful and elegant. And I think it will provide a very nice entree into this community. It uses some of the kind of the rock outcropping sort of feel that we have with the bluffs and that sort of thing. And the lettering has lighting behind it, so it's a very nice sign. Any further discussion?
If not, we call for the vote.
What was the total, Ruth, of our?
Our share is $38,902.68.
Motion is to expend $38,902 out of reserves for construction of the Bella Vista entrance signs. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
We thank you very much, the sign committee does, but more importantly, the way we have it worked out and the way we anticipate it will be up, both signs will be up in time for the 50th celebration in May. So that will be a very positive situation there, and it has been a rewarding experience to work on this, and I appreciate, and I'm sure Kathy does as well.
John?
Do we have to approve the agreement that Doug is working on with the city?
No, that's handled through POA staff.
So we don't have to vote on
And
it? So
what we do is approve the funding, and then we will rely on POA staff to finalize the agreement.
The city has already approved their funding.
I just was worried that I didn't want to wait a month to approve this. We had to vote on it.
The sign on the south has to be rezoned, and that's being worked out, and they're trying to waive the 3 readings on that so that that can move forward in a hurry. So
So my understanding was that the north side sign would be put in first, and then once they clear the zoning issue, then that would
Right.
end up following on the south.
So there shouldn't be any problem at all, but they plan to do each sign individually anyway, so that worked out real well with the timing, so,
Okay, all right,
thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
That's the only item under old business, new business, club concessions. Tommy?
We had lengthy discussions about the Metfield and the Highlands Clubhouse food service at our work session last week. We had at that point in time brought forward the funding that we felt would be needed to do the concession stands, as far as the equipment and the little bit of work that would require to put those in. At the same time, however, the board asked that we would also bring forward at least a concept of what we would do with the rest of the club by going ahead and doing all of the modifications as one project. And so I have, as I said, put together a little very rudimentary drawing, just taking the floor plan and playing with it in picture editor, so certainly it's not architectural quality. First off, I did want to show what we had been talking about as a concession stand type of thing. We were looking at pizza ovens, hot dog rollers. Can't see it in this one, but there's a hamburger oven over here. And so that's the kind of the type of equipment that we were looking at. It would be attached as part of the golf shop. We would need to open up an area so that we would have this area as well as a seating area attached to the golf shop. This is the floor plan of the Highlands, and of course the golf shop being on this end, the restrooms being here, which is one issue. Thank you. That's one of the issues that we have as far as making sure that the club space could be used by different groups at different times, and also being able to be locked when not in use. So what we have here is just the modifications to bring in the seating area. We would remove this wall right here. We would have to retain this wall. Did not have the ability within my little editing software to put in doors, but there would be a door here and a door here. This is the card room now. This has got a movable partition. At this point, that would become the seating area. The office is right here for the club manager. In the past, whenever we've talked about this option, that was where we were looking at putting the food prep and the equipment. And then, as a part of the discussion, we also talked about that we would take out the kitchen equipment, leaving only a catering kitchen in the back. And according to where we want to go with this, we would have the ability to, as you can see, this room is broken up. They're not just a straight line out through the end of the building. That we could either make partitions so that certain sections of the rooms could be set aside to have private meetings in, or the different types of cards that's being played at the same time. In this drawing, I did leave the bar area. Got your rock wall right here that segregates the two. Second, And this was something that was discussed, it's probably been close to 9 years ago, when the Highlands Clubhouse was closed for a period of time. We had public meetings out there. We had an architectural firm give us some conceptual drawings at the time and was talking about taking this area out so you could open up this whole area. And at that time, it was to make a larger dining experience. So that would be another option that we would have if we chose to open this room up even more to make it a larger venue, or we could leave it as this and have it more separated so you can have the small venue off to the side.
Tom, can I ask you a question? Is that
Sure.
construction similar to Medfield in that these walls are not load-bearing, so we do have quite a bit of flexibility in what we
Yes,
can determine?
yes. It's not quite as simple as Medfield because of the way the ceilings were done here on these edges, but it is set up on these piers is where the main weight distribution is. So as we had talked about before, we are able to do what we're talking about doing with a concession with just this part. Without doing any of this. Just that we were talking at the time that we wanted, if we were going to do the project and have a contractor in here, it may make sense to go ahead and do the rest.
Any comment from the board?
I noticed you have, on the north side, near, on the pro shop there, you have two doors exiting out. Were those to access a patio or deck area at a future point?
They could, yes.
They're existing.
Right now, they're fire exits, but they could be, certainly we could do something. We had talked about expanding, over time, we have had discussions about adding a patio out to this area for the golfers' convenience.
This would result in having some limited food service for members for breakfast and probably for lunch.
Yes. That was what we had initially thought was that it would be, well, it essentially would operate about the hours that the pro shop operated up until at least 4 or 5 o'clock, something like
Nothing
that.
in the evening.
That's all we've ever discussed, is just trying, that would not prevent you from doing that in the future. If you were just going to add in these type of convenience type of food, such as the hamburgers or whatever. And we have talked about the ability, we would plan on having beer here, bottled beer. We've also, and I showed you guys some examples of modular mixed drink machines that you could use. However, we did check with Papa Mike, and with all of his business, he sells about 90+% is beer. So he does very, very little actual mixed drinks.
Mixed drinks. Any other comments from the board?
I just wanted to clarify, or maybe refresh my own memory. We were looking at an approximate budget of about $10,000 for equipment, if I recall. And then the actual remodel of the Highland space was about, and again, no architectural drawings or bids or any details, but we were thinking close to $100,000.
And that, when we did that, that was what the architect had given us for something similar at Metfield. That does not include any of this because we've never discussed that before. One of the reasons of the cost is you're going to have to get utilities down to this end. Either more electricity, gas, I don't believe we'll need it, but we will have to have sewer. We're trying to stay away from hoods. So there would be some cost to get all of those utilities down there.
In light of the comments from membership, what I would like to propose is that there be an opportunity to share some of this detailed information with the Friends of the Highlands. And before we make any decision in terms of up or down, I'd at least like to have the opportunity to have that discussion. Does anyone have any objection to that?
My only concern is that we don't proceed with that discussion prior and make a decision prior to the next meetings. I'd like to make sure that we have these discussions and decide what we're going to do at our February meetings, not meet in February and then come back in March. I'd like to get it put to bed.
Because you're trying to move it forward and also address the golf season.
Exactly.
Okay. What I would propose to do is to contact Mr. Stoops and set up a time within the next week or so, hopefully, that we could get together and then review some of the concerns that Mr. Stoops and Mr. McKee have identified, and then come to some, at least, understanding as to what we're planning on doing so that we can, as a board, move this process forward. Okay.
There is a Highlands Executive Committee that it may be good for that group, along with members of the board, to get together. We could actually do it here and be able to talk using the screen.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. But we need to get that moving like tomorrow. Yeah, next week. And I'm certainly available.
I'm certainly available for that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we will end up doing that.
I would suggest we try to schedule a date now so this doesn't get away from us.
Oh, that's fine with me. I don't know if anyone from Highlands can commit to anything, but
You know, I have so few facts at this point that I wouldn't know how to put together. You don't know what this is gonna cost. You're saying $110,000 to do this versus $80,000 to try a restaurant? Is it $80,000? I took 5 minutes to look up a 12-foot measurement before I came here. $7,000 delivered to your plug-up. I couldn't find one more expensive, but there may be something on this.
Well, I think one of the things, Kurt, one of the things I think,
I don't have the facts. I'm not gonna have a meeting in 3 days without knowing more information. And there are more than just the Friends of the Highlands Executive Committee involved in this. I've gotten telephone calls, I've gotten emails from people that aren't on that committee all day long saying, get in there and say something, get in there, let us speak our piece, let us come to a meeting, let us hear what the plan is for that.
we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, we have to start somewhere. You come out to the Highlands and you tell everybody that's assembled in that room what you think you're gonna do with it. Wait. Can't hear me? TV can, I'm sorry. But my suggestion is that you come out to the Highlands. We'll have a meeting in that room of everybody that wants to come in the whole village. Not just the Highlands.
And announce it.
I
Now,
understand.
come, tell us what you have planned for that. But right now, the gentleman sitting next to me hasn't, I don't think he's had the opportunity to negotiate with apparently the right people. And who in their right mind would want to put capital into something that everybody that lives in this city should be putting money into, not just one individual? We all as POA should be investing in that building, not just asking one individual to put up $40,000 of his own money in a building that we should be providing to a leasee. I can't understand that. So, we can talk after this meeting about when to have a meeting at the Highlands.
Okay.
But in 2 or 3 days, I don't think it's going to happen.
gas pumps out there and call it a come and go. That type of operation. You know, you're saying hot dogs, roller, popcorn, pizzas. Might as well call it a come and go. I'd like to see a restaurant where we can go sit down, eat, have our neighborhood breakfasts, and whatever else we want to do there. Not a fast food to go or roller dogs. I don't think we need that. We got enough of those here.
As you know, we've had restaurants in POA clubhouses that have not been successful.
Well, we turned down a couple that went somewhere else, and they are
Understand.
successful, so something happens here. After they come through the gate here, something happens. And whatever it is, we're anti-business, and we're not bringing people in here.
Who did we turn down?
I'm sorry,
Who did we turn down?
JJ's.
We never
No.
turned them
That's
in.
not true.
They never made any attempt to become a restaurant.
Money went on the street doing gangbuster business.
They never asked to be a restaurant here.
They never approached us.
There's some other talk behind that. And,
Anyway,
We only deal with what we know about.
We will schedule a meeting as quickly as we can get that put together and see what we
yeah,
can
I
end
think
up.
still, we like a restaurant.
Understand.
It's not fair to Mr. McKee or anybody else that may want to contract with the POA to try to negotiate the terms and conditions of those contracts in public. No one would want to contract with us in the future if they thought that discussions about their negotiations would be in a public forum where everybody could listen to it, including their competitors. So I would encourage us to avoid doing that in public. It's not fair to Mr. McKee or anybody else.
Okay. I'll take one more comment and then we're gonna move on.
My name is Roy Leonard. I live at 9 Morganshire Drive, Bella Vista. I just moved here in September 17th. Heard a lot of positive and a lot of negative on the POA board. One time Medfield, I live right next to it, and they had a nice restaurant. And I think you need to have the people in that area involved in that meeting with the Highlands, because you can do the same thing.
I understand that.
Okay, nothing was said about that. I'm just making sure. Why don't the restaurants make it? Publicity, advertising, or we just don't have the right kind of food? Has anybody ever done any studies on that? I'm new to this area, September.
We did a very extensive study that basically gave us the clear impression that the people who live in Bella Vista who end up going outside of Bella Vista for other purposes, shopping, medical appointments, and a number of other things, end up at other restaurants rather than the restaurants here in the village.
I understand. I moved here, my wife and I were looking for places to go to dinner, lunch in Bella Vista, and there is nothing besides JJ's, Casano's, Subway, and Dairy Queen. And under here, but now here, the word's out. I'm just gonna tell you, my wife goes to Zumba over at and all the women we talked to, she asked about Amici's. Don't go there, don't go there. So I says, we're gonna go to find out what it is. Everybody's got a critic. So we're gonna go there and find out if it is good. But that's what happens. The word gets out about things and I can't make a go of it. But there aren't enough places here in Bella Vista. I came from an area where you could drive 1 mile and see 15 restaurants. And that's what you want. You want people here in Bella Vista to stay here. You need to do something. Find out, get somebody else in here. And if this gentleman here is the gentleman, then if he's got the plan, you need to go with it. I'm just putting my 2 cents worth in it. I think the main thing was make sure you have Medfield people involved with that meeting. Okay, thank you.
Tommy, would you like to finish with the Medfield part of the proposal?
Well, we did talk about that at the last work session, but it was essentially that we have with the current Metfield alignment, that with essentially buying the equipment and doing some work with the utilities, that we could go ahead and take in what is now one of the card rooms, and we can make that a seating area. We'll have to do a little bit of work because we certainly don't want to have to fully staff a concession stand. We want to try to keep it in line with the pro shop as much as possible. So I did not bring those again, but it would be a lot simpler project just because of the way it's already situated. So we think we could do that for, and I forget the exact number, but it was mostly just the equipment and putting in the utilities.
Are there any other encumbrances on that building that look like they might want to slow that down?
No, not at this point. The only thing that we have on that building, and that's what we discussed around the exercise facility, and that was, the amount of usage that happens in that room. And I've had already some people letting us know that, they don't want us using up their room, that they play cards or whatever in to make a sitting area. But that's all that I've really heard so far.
Mr. Brooks.
I'd like to just share a little history about the restaurant business here when it was run by Cooper, and how it may sway some of the thinking of that commercial business. The Coopers looked at the restaurant business as a loss leader. They were in the business of selling lots. They were in the business of selling financing to buy lots at 14%. They were looking at the business of building houses and financing houses on financed lots at 14%. And their cadre was to make sure that we had fantastic restaurants at a loss, if that's what it took, to keep people interested in moving to and enjoying the life at Bella Vista. Shortly after Cooper decided that they no longer had enough financial interest to be involved and gave the operation of the POA over to the POA board and membership, it became apparent that we did not have the finances to operate those kinds of facilities for the members' benefits at the monthly assessment that we collect in order to afford that amenity. I think it's important to understand that all of us would love to have those kinds of restaurants. I would love to have the POA involved in operating the restaurants with the right management. If we could get our members to agree to a $50 or $60 a month minimum to spend at the restaurants, or we could increase our monthly assessments $30 or $40 to have those nice restaurants, I think it would be a fantastic thing. But when you look at the business of operating a restaurant, it's important to understand that we don't have the financial capability to charge 14% when we sell a lot for whatever we sell it. And we don't have the wherewithal to build houses on lots that we own. And so, as a result of that, our capabilities in operating restaurants and allowing restaurants to operate in our facilities at the same standard that was set by Cooper is greatly encumbered. Any discussion moving forward in that area needs to think about, in my opinion, what's best for our overall membership, those that feel that we shouldn't be in the restaurant business, or support financially a continually lost effort operate restaurants. That's all I'll say.
Anything else from the board?
I would still be interested in going forward to talk about the Metfield half of the proposal and continue getting something for the Metfield facility started.
Absolutely. But I think, based upon the input we have from the gentleman and from the Medfield neighborhood, we need to schedule some meeting that we can discuss both of those. Everyone in agreement with that?
As long as we can get it done, so we're not looking at June of 2016.
Right. The new item under new business is the year 2015 is the 50th anniversary of Bella Vista Village and the Property Owners Association. And there have been a number of activities that are planned for the membership to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And what we'd like the board to consider is adding an additional $50,000 to the general manager's contingency fund to assist in ensuring that we end up having some very attractive and popular events for our 50th anniversary. So, I would entertain a motion to, in a second. We obviously didn't budget this, and this would be something that would have to come out of reserves. Any further discussion?
I'm assuming that we'll be advised as to how those funds are expended. I mean, they'll be for the 2015th anniversary celebration, but we'll have some clue as to where those funds are going before they're dispersed.
Before they're dispersed?
Do you want to address the mic?
What are the plans for?
Here's what I think we're talking about here. At the Recreation JAC meeting the other day, Clem Morgan mentioned a number of events that were planned. And they're not firm, they're just things that are being talked about to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Bella Vista. Coincidentally with that, there's a 100-year anniversary of Bella Vista, period.
Community, right.
That we could also merge with that. But the point is, these kinds of things are things that will come up very quickly. And backers, supporters, sponsors who will want to participate in these things like races, bicycle races, fishing tournaments, whatever, we'll have to move quickly to make them happen. We may not be able to wait for 2 or 3 board meetings to vote on stuff. So what I think you're proposing is to create an additional $50,000 earmarked fund
For the anniversary.
for the anniversary, that if something, we don't know what it would be, comes up that needs instantaneous funding, we can do that without a lot of board meeting and consideration. It's my understanding that at the end of the year, if we haven't spent some of that $50,000 earmarked, it would go back into reserves.
Yes, we have had a committee working for months now on different things. We've got quite a bit of ideas, as Dave mentioned. If you get the program ready, we would then try to get sponsors. Harvest has committed that they would sponsor some things. Cooper Communities has committed to sponsor some things, and there's others out there that we can get sponsorships through. So we're hoping that as this progresses, just like we did with the Dazzling Village Lights, at first we put all the money into it, and then we started going out and getting sponsorships and not ended up spending all the money that we had thought we would have to spend. And I would envision that we would do something similar to that, is that we will be going out and selling different sponsors on helping run different events and helping bear the cost of those.
Any further discussion?
Motion to add $50,000 to the general manager's contingency fund, funded from reserves to pay for 50th anniversary activities in 2015. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you. Next item is committee reports. The Rules and Regulations Committee was chaired by Mike Erickson. He obviously is no longer involved in that activity. Unless anyone has an objection, I'll just introduce the fact that we have a second reading of policy 3.08, which is temporary parking of vehicles on POA property. You have in your board packet a copy of that policy. It adds temporary parking for both POA members and guests. It's subject to a permit, and the permit has language that provides liability protection for the POA. So I'd entertain a motion for revised policy 3.08 to be voted on.
Make the motion.
Second. Any discussion?
The motion is to accept revised policy 3.08, temporary parking of vehicles on second reading. All in favor?
The Marketing and Communications Committee met on Monday, January 5th. We have been working closely with the Bella Vista Ambassadors Group. Those of you who get insights with your water bill may have noticed in the January issue a article related to the Bella Vista Ambassadors and one of their success stories for an individual that they hosted who subsequently has become a property owner and resident here in Bella Vista. Rob Patterson, who's one of the members of the Ambassadors Board, indicated that the Arvest Bank has donated $500 to the Ambassadors Group for use in advertising, and what they're looking at doing is advertising in military magazines for retired military folks. We're going to get some advertising costs at our next meeting in February. So that seems to be a program which is hopefully getting a little bit of legs to it. There also is a survey on the POA website regarding the Insights publication, which will be on the website through the end of January. We would ask anyone who hasn't participated in that to give us some input regarding the Insights publication. We also have a new employee. Ashley Napier is our new marketing manager. Started with us January 5th, and we hope that she will help us with promoting Bella Vista throughout not only the region, but in areas that we hope to attract people to come become residents or property owners here. We also have some preliminary discussions with the City of Bella Vista regarding some sharing of the space in the Insights publication. Right now, the City of Bella Vista doesn't have a communication tool to use with their residents. We have a monthly Insight publication that goes to everyone who has a water meter here in Bella Vista, and so the thought is that we may partner with the city in sharing some of the space on the Insights, and that'll be an ongoing discussion to get that moving. And that's basically the report from the Marketing and Communication Committee. Any Joint Advisory Committee reports?
The Golf Advisory met yesterday. Jay Grasbeck was elected the new chair, and they welcomed two new members, Bill Barr and Terry Pirtle. Orientation was held with a new task outlined, and obviously the most important one was to improve golf rounds, but they also talked about improving the golf experience for those who did play golf. Golf Expo will be Wednesday, February 18th from 4 to 6 in the afternoon, and group leader meeting will be at 3 o'clock before that particular meeting to talk to the group leaders, get their input as to how to improve the process of groups in Bella Vista. Since they say 290-some groups in Bella Vista at this time, and so to coordinate activities amongst them was a high priority, so. Bob, anything else?
One thing that was brought up was the fact that although golf rounds were down and have been down, when the USGA and the PGA looked at golf playable days versus rainouts, weather-related, non-playable days, you look at the average number of rounds played on days that could be played, they are up substantially, which means that many of the rounds that we're losing, as much of the United States and across the world, is weather-related, not just the fact that people are playing less rounds of golf. Interesting fact.
Yeah, interesting fact. The Recreation Joint Advisory Committee met on Monday, January 12th. They welcomed Jane Barfield as a new member to the committee, and they elected Bill Puskas as the new chair and Chuck Jansen as vice chair and Bill Allen as secretary. There was an assignment of each of the committee members to recreation facilities in the village. There also was a fairly extensive report, which Tommy alluded to, from Vern Olson from the POA maintenance group regarding the Tanya Creek repairs, and the fact that they've gotten a significant number of volunteers from the Tanya Creek Trail support group to assist with some of the vegetation planting that will take place and that sort of thing. There also was a lot of discussion, as Dave mentioned, from Clem Morgan about activities for the 50th anniversary celebration. So we'll be involved in doing a number of things as that sort of kicks off. The next General Manager Board monthly meeting is Monday, February 2nd at 2:30. This is a closed meeting. The next Board of Directors work session, Thursday, February 12th at 8 a.m. in the Country Club Board meeting room. And the next Board of Directors regular meeting will be Thursday, February 19th, 6:30 in the Country Club Board meeting room. Any other items? I'd accept the motion for adjournment. Second? All in favor? Okay. Thank you.